then that's when I started to reevaluate decisions in life.
Was that something that you were always thinking about even while you were playing, or did it kind of just hit you?
We all get older, but like, how do you grow? And growth is a mindset thing. Being able to build my first brand was for sure something that I had the confidence to like take whatever money I had saved up and put it into something that I didn't know where it was going to take me.
Welcome to this episode of The Confidence Quotient. I am your host, Michael Carrillo, co-host Zane Kaufman. Today we got a big-time guest. He is a former athlete, still does a lot of athletic things, branding mogul, probably the best way to put that, and represents some big-time celebrities and athletes. Amongst them, Zion Clark. He's had the documentary, I think it won a couple Emmys. Didn't it?
Yeah, two-time Emmy winner.
Yeah, two-time Emmy winner. Zion's a really inspirational person, has a documentary on Netflix. But Craig's story is phenomenal as well. Originally from South Africa, then to New Zealand, and then you originally came to the United States to play basketball.
Yeah, earned a scholarship for basketball, and
nice.
That started the journey.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that. I know that, obviously you came here, the goal was to play basketball. Was it, you were trying to go to the NBA? That was the ultimate goal at that point?
Yeah, I mean, it was to see how far I could take it.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily like looking objectively only at the end outcome. But yeah, for sure, as an athlete and a basketball player, it's like a football player trying to reach the NFL.
Yeah.
And you have these goals and aspirations. And, most of my efforts were put into like, how far could I take this?
Yeah.
And I did play some pro ball in New Zealand where I grew up before I even came here to play college. So I knew what basketball in New Zealand, Australia had to offer.
Yeah.
But coming to the US, it's a whole different ball game.
Yeah. Yeah. And how tall are you? 6'2"? 6'2".
Yeah.
I saw somewhere listed you were a small forward. Is that right?
I played the 2-3.
Okay.
So New Zealand, I was considered more a big man.
Yeah.
So I had to learn how to play like a guard when I moved to the US. So it's almost like I got thrown in. I first played JUCO ball here and junior college basketball.
In San Diego, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I had to figure out how to move like a guard, which is a whole different ball game. Like I was so good at playing with my back to the basket. I mean, in high school basketball in New Zealand, I was drop step dunk, which, I was always a great athlete. At 13, I dunked a basketball.
Wow.
So it was something naturally just a type 2 explosive athlete.
Yeah.
And that's a gift I have.
So if you had to like compare your playing style to somebody like that's in the NBA right now, who would that be?
I'll say before was Blake Griffin when I was more back to the basket, a little bit more. I mean,
you're playing above the rim a lot.
Yeah, I did. I surprisingly would surprise people because in the warm-ups, I would never show how athletic I was. And then come game time, I'd rise up on somebody and everyone's like, where did that come from? So it was almost like it was like a quiet assassin and then just rise up in a game and dunk on somebody and everyone's like, holy shit, where did I did not expect that. So, but I like contact on a basketball court. Played a little bit of rugby growing up, so used my athleticism, but then, was patient. I never wasn't like a high emotional guy that got in the game. I try to stay like high IQ and read situation and could shoot the ball pretty well. All around decent player.
Okay. So, like how, Dwight Howard, he had a very, very distinct playing style here. He goes to China way differently. He's shooting 3-pointers and stuff.
Yeah.
Once you started transitioning to being a guard, what was the player comp at that point?
That's a good question. Who would I compare myself to? I mean, I like the way Joe Johnson plays. If I compare to some degree, Joe Johnson, a little bit shorter version of him, I guess. He's just an all-round good player, high IQ, pass the ball, good hand-eye coordination, dribbling, shooting.
Yeah. I
guess a little more physical. I'd have to put some more thought into, but that's kind of who I aspire to be, something like that.
So you went to JUCO. You ended up going to a 4-year university after that.
Yeah.
There was a little bit of a story with the school that you ended up transferring to, right?
Yeah. So I went to a school in Riverside. Never was told it wasn't accredited. And so basically a year of my school life didn't, go anywhere in terms of academics. It was a cool basketball experience because we played some big D1 schools. I was playing like 30 minutes a game and was able to really like find myself. That was the first year I was really able, had the leeway to just figure stuff out, especially against big schools and compete with them. Yeah, I was able to really level up, especially against the competition we're playing against. So it was an interesting experience, especially like I was on a quote unquote scholarship, but it wasn't even a real school. So it was like...
You're like, as long as my school's getting paid for, man, we can go anywhere.
Exactly. And then as soon as basketball season ended, I bounced. I was like, I'm out. These credits don't mean anything. And that's when I ended up at Cal State San Marcos.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. And so then you finished up your career there?
I did. I got finished my academics there, but then would have finished my basketball there and then had a career-ending injury. I dislocated my right ankle. Went up to dunk on somebody, landed awkwardly. It was the end of my basketball career. It was pretty bad. I've had multiple surgeries on it, since then, and that's when I started to reevaluate decisions in life and like what's next. Because at that stage, it was like take basketball as far as I can go with it. Like I was still, at the time I was 24, so it's like very young in athletic career.
I feel like it's such a pivotal age for a lot of people, especially athletes, where your entire life, your identity is you're an athlete. You even come to a different country still with the dream of let's realize this athletic dream. Once that was kind of taken away from you, like where were you at mentally at that point?
For a while, it was very tough. Like just learning to learning to walk again, learning to, and then knowing my ankle would never be what it was again, at least, from a performance standpoint, and wanting to like push my body, especially on a basketball court. So that's kind of what ended the career. Was like, okay, I got back into training like I was before, and my body was like, nah. So I have hardware in there. It's a mess. But the pivotal point was I'm a realist, and I think it's important as an athlete when the dream's over to accept that. And know that there's other things in life that could be bigger and more powerful, more of a calling for you.
Was that something that you were always thinking about even while you were playing, or did it kind of just hit you?
It hit me harder, but it is because I'm naturally, I moved here from New Zealand with $2,000 to my name. I've always been a problem solver and had to figure things out in life. And that's thrown me to be a very independent human. And so I've always think ahead, because I'm like, to be successful, I've had to. Like when you come here with not a lot as an immigrant, it was without parents that could financially support me. With a lot of love, they were like, anything, we got you, but financially, obviously we can't. So being a problem solver in that regard makes you always think, you have to think what's next. You got to be like, okay, where do I see myself in 6 months, a year? So when this pivotal moment happened, was already thinking like objectively at the end of college, what else am I going to do? I love America. I naturally have a business mind, I'm self-made and love entrepreneurship. I've never had in my life a quote unquote real job. I've never had a 9-to-5 since a kid. I've figured out how to make money and get by, and it's just pivoting and shifting into different industries and different things.
What was the first venture you took actually after moving out of being an athlete?
Athletics was driven by a lot of passion. And when I ended the basketball career with an injury, I wanted to still be working with athletes and also things fueled by passion. And I started a supplement company. And it was all organic and well-crafted ingredients, very purpose-driven. We had a really cool community. Our tagline for the brand was "Be Real, Be You," and it was promoting authenticity in this. Especially back then, it was fake world of supplements with bodybuilders promoting lean protein and half-naked girls on a bed with their BCA bottles on her butt, like, hey, go take this. And it's like there was such a disconnect between the industry, and me and my best friend wanted to bring a lot of authenticity to the industry. So created a cool brand, great products, cool story, but it was also my first startup, and didn't know how much money to raise and the moving pieces that it takes to build a brand in a very saturated industry.
Yeah. The other thing is you're in a completely different country. And so can you talk about the difference between, what it would be like to start something like that in New Zealand to starting like something like that in America? What is the difference in culture, right?
That's a good point, is culturally, and then also the size and scale.
Yeah.
there's pros and cons to both. New Zealand is 4 million people, 4.5 million. So to launch a successful brand, you need a huge part of the market share to be successful because it's such a small market.
Yeah.
Whereas America, you need a very small percent to be successful, but you're dealing with conglomerate companies that have huge marketing budgets and, have done it before. There's a blueprint to success in business. So when you're navigating in the dark and trying to figure things out, you have limited room for execution and error. I don't look at it as a loss by any means, but I learned a lot in the process of building a brand.
Yeah.
And, obviously we'll get into what the next step was. But I learned a ton. Like I wouldn't change it for anything.
So, obviously I think there's a show that came out a few years ago where they would take these billionaires and strip them of their resources, their name, and then they would put them in a new state or new city. And I think the challenge was they had to make $1 million in a certain amount of time. Yeah. And I think a lot of that is, once you already have the mindset, once you already have the know-how on how to get there, that process of building and scaling something quickly becomes a lot easier.
100%.
So for you, like you achieved a lot of things in sports. Obviously there was things that happened outside of your control that maybe caused you to start moving and looking elsewhere. What were some of those maybe transferable mindset things or skills that like, okay, this is something I picked up even, from sports or my upbringing that I still carry with me today?
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, sports teaches you so much and you don't always realize it when you're in it.
Yeah.
And then after you reflect on it, you're like, damn, I have these tendencies because of sport.
Yeah.
And I mean, effective communication is one huge one. Like to be a good athlete, you got to know how to communicate with your coaches, with your teammates, with your trainer, whoever that is. And that translates to success in business and life because relationship is all about communication. You got to voice expectation of what you want, what you need, and vice versa. So I pride myself in being an effective communicator and being a transparent and open communicator. Mm-hmm. That's a huge one. Obviously, discipline is a huge component of athletics, not for everybody because you have freak talent that sometimes just relies on their talent. And, but you look at the GOATs of any respective sport, they have the talent and the work ethic. You need both as a recipe for success to be, the greatest at what you do. I'm very gifted in the sense of I've always been disciplined. Like I think putting things upon myself where I succeed or fail falls on me. That accountability piece is very, very important to me. Like I take pride if I succeed in something, but I also take pride if I fail, and I take that responsibility. Say it's on me. Like I truly value that because there's a lot of lessons that come with failure. I mean, I think I've learned way more from things that I've lost or failed at in life than what you win. Because winning, you get happy for a bit, and then it's like you move on to the next thing. But it's like, how do you dig yourself out of struggle and how do you navigate and find a different path? So like that resiliency, the discipline, but resiliency to, relating back to basketball. I mean, I've been cut from basketball teams. I've been told I was too quiet. I need to do, like a lot of people, but I stuck with it. And at all my friends in New Zealand, I was one of the few that earned a basketball scholarship and stuck with it. And there was more talented people than me, but I knew I was destined for something and I didn't take no for an answer. And I apply the same concepts to business. Yeah. If I know I have value to provide, I'm going to provide it.
So there's a lot of confidence I think that you need to have in order to do that. So, obviously there's people that have gone through really, tough things. There's so many things that you could have pointed to as an excuse as to why this didn't happen or why that didn't happen. For you, where does that confidence come from to say, okay, I've done this, I failed at this, I'm going to take that next step? Is that something that was always inside of you? Was that something that you had to build out?
For sure, I had to build and work on. I'm a quieter person, so sometimes, people it comes off differently to how people perceive me. I don't always have to be the loudest person in the room, but I know my message is always heard, and that's what's important to me. I don't have to be seen, but I make sure I'm heard. That's kind of how I view myself. But it's doing the work. I think knowing that I show up every day and do the work and stay disciplined and I'm resilient is part of a recipe for success. And I think that's where some of my, part of the confidence comes from. The other part is from having your first achievement or success, because you get that feeling and now you know what it's like to succeed and you can replicate that and you know your value you provide, right? Early on in business, I used to question, like, what are my skill sets? What am I good at? Because I've never had a corporate job or somebody hiring me for a skill set.
Right, yeah.
So I used to question myself a little bit, like, what am I good at? And I would ask people, I would get, you know, external feedback, like, what do you think my skills are? I'd ask friends or people around me, like, what do you think I'm good at? And I would use that as external feedback to help figure out my skills and how do I progress and develop these things. So it's not something I've always had by any means. I've had the discipline and the work ethic, but I've had to find myself for sure and really truly know who I am and what I bring to the world.
What was that first big win for you that was like, okay, like whatever else is presented to me, I at least have the audacity to go and try it out?
I think, well, the supplement company, like being able to build my first brand was for sure something that I had the confidence to like take whatever money I had saved up and put it into something that I didn't know where it was going to take me. I didn't know. I knew I was going to learn from it. I knew we had some good moving pieces, but I didn't know what the recipe to success was. So I think that was like the first real leap of faith to be like, if this fails, I don't know what's next. I'm putting whatever money I have into this, and I'm going to do the work and learn on the fly. But who knows?
Yeah,
dude. That I mean, for many people or for most people to put all of their money into something and not have a guarantee, especially in America. I don't know about other countries, but especially in America, that's like not many people do that. Or even have the confidence to do that. So even though it's something that you said you had to develop, it sounds like from the beginning, like you're a confident person, even though maybe you didn't feel that. You know what I mean?
I think I'm okay with the unknown. I think that's the thing is like, I'm okay to know that I don't know the outcome. You know, moving here from New Zealand with not a lot at 19, I look back at it, I'm like, I'd never left home or been away from my family for more than 5 days.
Yeah.
So to move the other end of the world, I didn't know a soul other than my assistant basketball coach that picked me up at the airport. I was like, that unknown and not having fear of the unknown, I think is I guess that confidence talk about, to say like, I'm okay with whatever happens, you know, without setting an expectation. You know, you just roll with it, like whatever, you know, and I try bring that out in other people around me when they have tough decisions to make.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's the worst can happen? Reflect on, you know, if you move somewhere else, worst can happen. What, you move back?
Yeah.
Like, you know, take these leaps of faith, like put your, you know, I think as a society, we often value the support of like having something that's guaranteed, but certain people like thrive in the unknown. And I think, you know, also in entrepreneurship, you have to be okay to take that leap.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people, I think, with dreams that don't pursue them because of the fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
And, you know, think about how many talented people with skills or passions, like, man, I'm an incredible singer, but I never pursued it because it's never too late. That's the other part of it too, is it's never too late to go after something you want in life. Like, people also, I think, get, you know, they reflect on them getting older or like whatever the stigma associated, or the other part of it too is, you know, misery loves company. So people, you know, people hold other people around them back too. Yeah. Family is often a big one, you know, and now people make decisions not for themselves, but like, say their parents or friends around them, like, oh, you can't do that. So then I think people get influenced by people around them more than their own decisions sometimes. And that's another part of the equation. I silence the doubt and haters and people around me. And I'm like, at the end of this, my decision, this is my life. And I'm going to go for this. So I blind the people around me and I don't let that influence my decision.
Right. And I think you're, you know, just to continue on that thought, you surround yourself with really positive people. I would say probably one of your strengths is your ability to create relationships.
100%. Yeah.
You know, you and I, we met on a boat together, and you're not the loudest guy, you're not the most flamboyant guy, but there's just something about you that makes people want to lean in and hear more about what you're talking about. Now, obviously that skill has gotten you to the place that you're at now, representing 100%. You know, big time people. Was that something that you had to develop? You know, again, as for a lot of people, they associate being an introvert with maybe a lack of confidence.
Yeah.
Is that something that you had to maybe come out of your shell and learn to, you know, maybe leverage that? Or was that something you just had to, hey, I've got this, I'm going to double down on my ability to just be myself, even though I'm a little bit more introverted?
It was, big part of it was, like I mentioned, was being an effective communicator.
Yeah.
Because you have to effectively be able to communicate your wants and needs. And in business, I mean, that's everything, is like, how do you provide value to others? I love communicating on one-on-one or small group, but again, as you said, I'm not the person in the room that's going to be loud and be seen by everybody. By realizing the importance of communication, and then even with relationships with significant others, you know, like reflecting on how they perceive me too, being like, you know, the importance of communication, I realized that it'll come up more and more. And then I started just, you know, because I've always been more introverted, but I've always had confidence. So like I joke around, even in the world of like relationships and dating, like I'm not a nice guy, I'm a good human. Like I'll never let anyone walk all over me. I have more self-respect for myself than a lot of people do.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm not a nice guy. Like, don't ever think I'm a doormat. Like, you'll be gone in an instant. Yeah. But I'm a good human. I treat everybody with respect, and I value that highly. Doesn't matter what you look like, the color of your skin, what your disability is. I will treat everybody with the same respect, because everybody deserves that. And I'll meet somebody where they're at. And, you know, I see eye to eye with everybody. I don't put, you know, part of my success, I think, too, is I don't put celebrities on a pedestal ever. It doesn't matter who they are. Like, they come into this world the same way that we do, and they leave the same way. Nobody else, it doesn't matter what success you have in the world, I will appreciate you for that, and I'll value that, but I won't put you any other way as a human as anybody else.
Yeah, and I think that probably separates you from a lot of other talent managers or, you know, people that are in that world, because you're now representing a lot of celebrities, you know, people that are used to being, you know, oohed and awed over.
Yeah. No, for sure. There's definitely value in being able to treat them. You know, part of, I guess, my blessing to be able to connect with people is just befriending people. Like, people are energy, and how you come off. I try to be my authentic self as much as possible. And people and vibration energies, it's like a wavelength. So I never also never come from a place of like scarcity mindset and trying to like force opportunity and things. I do things without expectation. When I meet somebody, you know, whatever, it's an event or a party, whatever it is, I don't try to think of like, what is the end outcome of this? It's like, no, form a foundation, and if you guys vibe and connect on a personal level, then great. But if you don't, then that's okay too. So I never lead with a mindset of I need anything. It's more like, how do I provide value? And if we see eye to eye on things, then great.
Yeah. Well, you know, obviously you started the supplement company. You're now more into the representation side of things. How did that transition take place?
So the supplement company that I started, I met, you know, mentioned Zion Clark, big inspiration, who was born without legs in the foster care system. He has one of the most compelling stories in the world. Spent 17 years in foster care, you know, was born in a penitentiary to a drug addict mom. His life story is beyond wild. And when we had the supplement company, my best friend was training Aquaman, Jason Momoa. Him and Zion were filming the episode of Ellen DeGeneres the same day. And we had come across Zion a week before on social. We're like, man, this guy stands for what our brand's all about. We need to get him involved. A week later, my best friend's calling me like, dude, Zion's backstage on Ellen, like freaking out. And then Zion's freaking out because Aquaman's there, Jason's there.
Everyone's freaking out.
Exactly. Everyone's like, so anyway, came over for dinner that night with his mom, his second time ever in California because he grew up in Ohio. And we just headed off and you know, established like that friendship and trust, and got him involved in the supplement company, became a big part of our brand. And then as I saw an exit out of that, I, you know, learned about brand building and influencer marketing and marketing in general. And it was like, if I just provide this support to him and guidance, because he's never had parents growing up, you know, he had an adopted mom at 17, but he was only 20 at the time. So he had, you know, hadn't seen a lot of years beyond foster care. I was like, man, if I just support him and be there no matter what, he's going to make mistakes along the way, but just be like a solid rock that he hasn't really had ever. I was like, I know we can move mountains. Like, I know, I didn't objectively think like, how many dollars can we make together? It was more just like, can I support another human that needs guidance in life? And I saw it. You know, he came to stay with me for a while, and I was like, man, this guy's so incredibly talented and gifted, but he needs somebody that believes in him and he can lean on when you know, life's tough. Life's tough for everybody. You have somebody like this that was born with a disability and no legs, and went through a foster care system and never had parents to guide him. I mean, think about objectively his upbringing. So, you know, I've empathy for people for sure. And I decided to devote myself. At first, it was like a transitional thing. I was doing a couple, odd jobs, but I was like, it progressed to a point where it's like, I'm going to devote this is going to be my full-time job, is Zion. If I just apply brand building concepts that I've learned with the supplements to his brand and view him as a brand, I think we could problem solve together and figure things out along the way.
Yeah.
And through that friendship and trust we established, that's where it all stemmed from. He probably trusts a handful of people, like he can count them on one hand who he really trusts. And I got into that circle with him, just by being there for him. But that's when things like skyrocketed with what I do in business, because I learned to problem solve. I mean, he got us into a lot of doors just with people gravitate towards him energetically. You could imagine this, he's a 3-time Guinness World Record holder, Division I wrestler, 2-time All-American, professional track athlete. He won a professional fight. Motivational speaker, plays 6 instruments, being featured on every major news network and media outlet you could think of.
When you first started wrestling too, you're telling me that he lost his first, how many fights?
215 matches before he won one.
Wow. Imagine going 0-215.
Yeah.
And let's still strap it up, right?
The self-talk had to have been off the Richter scale, dude, with that guy.
No doubt.
For sure.
And again, not having a stable upbringing, not having necessarily good people in his ear until more recently.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you've learned from him?
Well, yeah, that's a good point. I've learned a lot from him because, it's taught me to see things from a whole nother lens and perspective of how other people see the world. And, I've learned for sure a lot of patience, just to, you're going to make mistakes along the way. And I'm naturally a patient person, but he's taken my patience to another level, which I love him. But that's one big thing I've seen. Another one is realizing that there's a lot of different paths to success. He's taken a whole different life path and by all means has his own version of success and what he's creating in the world, or I'm creating alongside him. But there's so many different ways to create your version of success in this world, and there's so many different paths to reach it.
Yeah.
And that's a huge one that I've learned from him, especially the amount that he's overcome and struggled, and look where he is now.
Yeah.
And another one to realize your failures shape who you are. Look at my own struggles or things I've been through and shifting of direction in my life purpose. And it's all, because say I was still an athlete, all this work I've done, and I do a lot of impactful non-profit work too. We get to do some cool things, but most importantly, we inspire millions of people across the globe. I've taken Zion to Europe, Asia, Africa. We travel the world, and his message is so powerful, it resonates to all culture and all backgrounds. And my job is to just shine that light across the world, because he is a light to the world. So it's like I feel good every day and I wake up because I'm serving a purpose. I'm serving a very powerful purpose as what we do collectively. And, so that's another one is your failures truly shape who you are, but you got to learn from them to grow through them. Life will continue throwing something at you, a lesson, until you learn from it, and then you can move on and grow.
Yeah.
You have to be able to resonate with what life's trying to teach you. That's why you see repeated offenders in prison or whatever it is, because they haven't learned that lesson to grow out of that, to grow to the next phase of life. And, I'm a honest and firm believer that people get older, but not a lot of people grow.
Yeah.
And that's the reality of it. It sounds pretty harsh, but
it's true.
It's real. It's true. People kind of just go through the motions of things, and we all get older, but how do you grow? And growth is a mindset thing. It's, I truly think it stems from your thoughts and your mindset.
What are some mindset stuff that are you practicing, like mindfulness? What are like a daily routine? What does that look like for you? Just honing in that mindset.
Yeah. For sure. I start my day with mindfulness or meditation, guided meditation, or breath work. I do a lot of Wim Hof breathing.
Oh yeah.
And for me, that sets a tone and expectation for my day. Right after I do that, because that puts your mind in a more neuroplastic state. For neuroplasticity. So now when you open up those pathways, then I'll start to write down objectives and goals for the day, and then also how I feel in the morning, and did I sleep enough, these things, or which with my current life, it's not always that I'm sleeping enough. So, but I'm a realist too. I go back to like, it's okay. I'm in the grind.
Yeah.
So yeah, start off with the mindfulness practice, then writing down his goals and expectations for the day. And I'm big on writing things down. For me, that's how my brain processes things and remembers the importance of it. And then at the end of the day, I basically reflect on it and see what I was able to accomplish and achieve. I also set bigger goals and expectations, like long term. I like through manifestation as well. I try to attract things that I want into my life. But I think where a lot of people go wrong is manifestation is only a small part of it. The other part is doing the work. It's very easy.
It's easy to just sit in a room and just like write things down.
Yeah. Exactly. Be like, yeah, these are the things I want. Okay, let me go pray now and get these. Yeah. It's like trying to get in better shape but not going to work out. Like manifesting that I'm going to, be a better athlete without training.
Yeah. That's you can have the best plan in the world, but if you don't do anything about it, it's just...
Exactly. So I think the word gets thrown around a lot, but it's like... The hardest part is what? Doing the work. We can all imagine things. Like in business, you can have an idea. It's about execution.
Yeah.
Execution is everything. Execution is the doing the work piece, right? Yeah. So the imagination, or having a business idea, is the manifestation piece. Yeah. You got to bring them together and do them both. So I do, especially at night, think about the things I want in life, and am I on the right trajectory and moving in the right direction of what I want? And then wake up the next day and go tackle those things and go after them.
Are you a vision board guy?
Yeah, I haven't actually, not a vision board. I use a whiteboard to write down and kind of plan. I'm a big planner.
Yeah.
Naturally like operations. If I did work in the corporate world, I'd probably be like a COO, like I'm naturally operations driven. But I've never actually done like a vision board with certain things I want. I do think it's cool and I would do it. I just haven't.
Yeah.
So
you're seeing it though.
For sure. I'm visualizing it. And putting belief into it.
Right. So you're doing a lot of work, obviously, now, branding. You learned a lot of things from the supplement company. You started carrying that out with Zion. Now you've got an agency. You're starting to do this for other people as well. What are some things that are changing now versus maybe when you started this 4 or 5 years ago as far as building a personal brand?
Big thing is like leveraging social media and understanding how the different algorithms work to build your personal brand. I mean, that's how it was before too, but a lot of marketing is moving away from traditional marketing and now going into the power of influencer marketing, because think about how new influencer marketing is in the world we live in.
Yeah.
It's only been around for maybe the past, 7 years or something? Like before that, it was all traditional marketing. But now the way talent is viewed as their own media company, right? You got to view talent as a brand, and that's how I viewed Zion early on, is with like a brand approach. Like you look at Shaquille O'Neal, he's a brand. He's not an individual, he's a brand. Yeah. You look at Mike Tyson, you look at Jordan. Look at Ed Jordan, So viewing talent as their own media company, which can build a valuation for them, is so powerful. And I teach that with athletes and people I work with around me is, take care of your sport and like continue to excel in what you do, but whatever's beyond your playing career is going to be your personal brand. And even during your career, leverage the hell out of the eyeballs on you right now. Yeah. Because if you don't, it's going to dissipate, and then you're going to lose that opportunity to grow from that. Like anyone around me, I'm always, especially Zion, because he's my day-to-day guy, is like, how do I keep him current in the world? How do I continue to keep his name in people's mouths? Why do you think the Kardashians are so successful? But probably 90% of the world hates them because their names are in people's mouth. That's, you create, they're a marketing opportunity in themselves.
And they're making money either way.
Exactly. You think they care if you hate them? Like, you're talking about them. So obviously they're consuming headspace. So, it's like, how do you, for example, like, I know there's a lot of local like bachelors in San Diego. And, a lot of them have actually approached me to work with them. But they have about a 2-year window to maximize their growth potential. Use that as a Kickstarter for something else.
Right.
And that's important, is when you are talked about, like, leverage that. So personal branding is super important for anybody. I mean, I don't post enough on Instagram. I like to put a little bit of inspirational stuff out there and lead with inspiration. But for anybody trying to do anything in the world, you have to like put yourself out there to a degree and provide value to others. Like that's the biggest thing about social. If you want somebody new to follow you, what value are you providing for them to click follow and be like, I like this content? And that could be inspirational, it could be educational, it could be humorous, it could be just relatability.
Yeah.
Find ways. And when I work with talent, I try to find multiple ways or hit each of those cylinders to be like, okay, you know, how do we hit multiple boxes? Because now you're going to build community from different places.
Yeah.
Like Zion's Instagram, I took from just under 200,000 followers while he was losing followers to over 1 million in about 8 months.
Wow.
And I applied all these core concepts that I'm referring to now. And then also we collaborated with bigger talent. You know, I leveraged the fact that he's so likable.
Yeah.
And his notoriety. And I was like, how do we, you know, so I started DMing bigger talent or like would be at events and connecting with bigger people. And I made sure I followed up and reconnected with them and then created content and did these things. And now different communities got accustomed to him. Like he travels the world on a skateboard, and Ryan Sheckler gave him his first board when we were hanging out with Ryan and signed it for him. And then started skating and did a kickflip, his first ever time skating. And then all the biggest skate communities like SLS and the Barracks and stuff promoted it. So now the whole skate community knew him. Now I was like, let's post more. We went to Guitar World and started, and he just jumped on the drums and guitar, and then we posted a bunch of that. Now all the musicians, you know, a bunch of big musical pages and musicians started resharing his stuff. Now did the same thing with athletics. Now did more Guinness World Records, and now Guinness are promoting all his stuff. So now, because when I ask people like, hey, have you seen this guy? Where did you come across him? I do that because that's quantitative research for me to understand.
Yeah.
It's feedback. It's like, okay, I'm doing my job.
Yeah.
Or we travel to in a city in Africa and they know who he is.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh shit, that's super dope. That's like, you know.
Yeah, did you hear about him from the skateboard, from the guitar, from the Guinness?
Yeah,
you know?
his Netflix doc, like, how do you come across his journey and story? Because he's so multifaceted. And I use that to understand these concepts because it's, you know, he was kind of my blueprint to, you know, entry into success of the world of entertainment.
Yeah. Well, you know, a lot of things that have changed too over these last few years is just what platforms are popping off, right? Like when you first started, it's probably all Instagram. Yeah. You know, now you're looking at TikTok. You do a lot of things now with Snapchat.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I've got a partner overseas. We have about 130 employees, run about 100 shows on Snapchat, all kinds of different ideas, concepts, content. I'm actively always onboarding new talent that have cool concepts for shows. But have a very extensive labor force, very blessed with that handle all the Snapchat growth. I also work with celebrities on Snapchat and help them, you know, from A-list celebrities, rappers, athletes. I won't mention all the names, but definitely people in that genre, and essentially help them with the brand building monetization component, because one side is like building community, but then it's like, how do you leverage that and actually monetize it? You know, and again, that always falls back to Zion. I built his brand or helped him build it, but then I started monetizing it through brand deals, through advertising, through these other components, and then applied that same concept to other talent. It was like, okay, I know I have value to provide to these people, and that's how I, you know, form relationship, and then knew I had something to give. You know, sort of referring to Snapchat and Facebook, I do a lot of monetization through there with athletes, creators, celebrities, and create additional passive revenue for them, which who's not going to want?
Yeah. Well, I know Snapchat is paying creators like huge compared to some of these other platforms now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, when you talk about like the best platforms to be on, I mean, if you have community already, Facebook is huge.
Still.
Like, because, you know, especially like old school celebrities that have these huge followings that are just dormant. You know, our job is to go find those kind of people and then help them monetize
reactivate them.
Bring that community back, because they're paying out through ad revenue. So... You know, there's in-stream ads. Facebook also have a bonus program that just expired. But like, essentially, I mean, you can make 5-6 figures a month on Facebook. And then Snapchat, same thing, up to, you know, 7 figures. I know people personally doing 7 figures monthly on Snapchat. $100,000 days.
Wow. It's insane.
So it's almost like a hidden gem.
Yeah, you don't hear about Snapchat. You know,
no, everyone, when I talk to people about Snap, they're like, damn, I haven't touched that in 10 years. Or like, you know, there's power in that for me as someone that owns a digital agency, because I can educate and then help.
And execute,
Exactly.
I know we're running out of time, but dude, the one thing I have the question for is, when you're working with talent, I got to imagine that there's a certain amount of vulnerability that these people have to be, when they are building a brand, have to be okay with. I mean, Can you kind of speak on that?
You mean like an existing talent or like?
Yeah, existing talent, or even somebody who's building a brand and maybe starting from somewhere, they're semi-famous. Maybe they're like, D-list if you're going to put them on a...
Yeah, or like a micro-influencer or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh-huh.
Because, I mean, for me, when I see somebody, I connect with a brand more when I can relate to that person.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of sharing their story and so on and so forth. I didn't know if that was something that you worked with specifically with your talent that you are bringing up.
Yeah, I mean, part of that is like successful branding is telling a story or like emotionally connecting to people. That's what good brands do. Is there's a form of emotional connection that makes you feel compelled or some kind of way. So I definitely like dissect, if I'm going to work with anyone, I dissect what they're currently doing and how they're doing it and how can I improve on that. So for sure, there's the emotional component.
Yeah.
Because you look at any successful brand and that's what they do. For example, when I met with VaynerMedia, like the first thing they showed me was Dwayne Wade's Budweiser commercial, which is Dwayne Wade's retirement. It's all super compelling, heartfelt. At the end, Budweiser pops up. And it's like, that's what you remember though. But it's a way to emotionally connect to people. And then consumers very smart now where unless you can emotionally connect to them, you can't sell to them. Like we're over the days of just throwing something in front of you trying to sell. There has to be some form of story told or compelling piece, and then the sale coming at the end, or what they want you to basically buy into, if it's a program, a community, a product, or anything. So there's that element. And the other elements, being able to give back is a huge piece for any brand or any individual. It's important. I mean, it's just an important component of life is to be able to give back. Like
people feel good about spending their money where they know it's like, oh, they're donating it here.
Exactly.
They're doing this. Yeah.
It's important. And I mean, part of my purpose and mission is to share my story as a form of inspiration to people. I don't, I never lead my life from a form of, impressing people. It's how can I inspire other people to share my journey and be like, hey, this is what I did. And Zion's another example. Somebody who could have given any excuse in the book to give up. Yeah. And is here today to keep building and growing. Yeah. So I think it's important to live life in your own terms. Yeah. But also, realize that you inspire more people than you think. Even myself, like I get some messages from people around me that have seen me, my growth and development as a person and appreciate it or have done things because of it. And it's a powerful feeling. And truly, the purpose side of things is important. So not to lose sight of that.
As somebody that's obviously coaching people on branding, where is kind of that line of being true to yourself versus maybe starting to accommodate some of the trending things going on in the world? Like we see Budweiser, and they had a huge backlash with maybe not being genuine to their core brand. Yeah. Obviously, there's tons of opportunities to make money. There's tons of opportunities to maybe stretch your version of yourself in order to kind of maybe accommodate some of those things. Yeah. How are you coaching people up on that as far as like, do I stay true to myself here completely, or maybe there's some things that we can maybe stretch to get there?
I mean, to me, the importance of like brand building is how do you find those hero customers or like build community? Because the longevity of any brand is community. You have to have like people that are, hardcore believers of whatever your movement or whatever you're trying to create is. Yeah. So I'm more on the side of like, if you put value and good things into the world with a, very distinct message, you're going to be able to create those long-term customers. It might take a little bit longer to build, but there's more value in that than somebody that's jumping to 4 different brands in 6 months, and then they might purchase something through, because you also got to look at like LTV of a brand. And a brand could also be like your Instagram page if you're a creator or celebrity, because more people hitting that unfollow button are disconnecting between your content and what you're putting out. So I don't just talk about like a brand in that perspective. I look at like talent as the brand too, as I kind of mentioned. Yeah. But so I think staying true to yourself, but knowing you got to provide value to others. Yeah. And you got to lead with that.
Yeah. When you're thinking about your legacy moving forward, I mean, you're doing a lot of work to kind of build other people's brands, and you do apply a lot of that stuff to yourself. is that something down the road where it's going to be like, okay, I'm doing all this and eventually I'm going to really put everything that I've been doing. I'm going to do the book. I'm going to do the doc. I'm going to do everything. Is that even something on your radar right now?
Yeah, to a degree. I think about it because I'm like, I do have a pretty unique life path. I mean, we all do.
Yeah.
So I'm like, eventually a book, would be cool to share my story and journey. There's still a lot to unfold. So it's like, it's hard to also be like, well, when is that timing of
yeah.
But I think to me, it's reaching more milestones, goals, accomplishments, continue to give back, inspire, make a difference. And then if I have a certain opening in my life where like maybe I'm a little more stagnant or have more time in my hands to focus on that. Right now, I'm just giving myself to others, more so.
Yeah.
And then it's like the same way in life, your value systems change based on what you're doing in the world. Like my mom always told me, be selfish till you have kids. So right now it's like focus more on my purpose, my drive, my mission, business, health and wellness. But then once you have a family, it's like your whole objectives change because now you're taking care of a family. So in saying that, I eventually would love to share my story more with the world, or I guess put a little bit more spotlight on me.
Yeah.
I never want the whole spotlight, but
yeah.
I guess a little bit more, I'm okay kind of being behind the scenes.
Yeah. People got to know who Craig is.
Exactly.
Yeah. We got to let them know.
Hey, dude,
Yeah.
I want to know who Craig is. Craig
Yeah.
a rad guy.
So what do you think that there's accomplishment that, okay, once I hit this, all right, maybe I'm ready to maybe have settle down, have a family, take the foot off the gas pedal a little bit. Is there something like that right now for you?
Not necessarily, no. I think just keep fostering relationships and meeting great people and knowing I have gifts to give the world. And I like, I kind of mentioned back to like me moving here too. I like navigating an unknown. So I don't necessarily always put expected outcome on things. I'll just let things flow and, reevaluate things constantly without having saying I need certain goals or accomplishments before I do this or this.
Yeah. So when you're laying at night, you're visualizing things, you're thinking through, okay, like in a few years I want to be at this level. What are maybe some of those things that are keeping you up, maybe that you're chasing towards right now?
Always just being a better version of myself.
Yeah.
Like, I think we all have strengths and weaknesses, and it's like, how do I'm a learner of life. Like I have a tattooed on my ribcage is forever a student and teacher of life. I love to teach things to others, but I love to learn at the same time. And that's how the like ebb and flow cycle of life works to me. But I'm always just thinking of how do I improve my skill set and how do I be able to provide more and give more to others and work on those things that need more work or time or attention. Like we have limited time in a day. It's like, how do you optimize performance and time? It's like, how do I, while still making time for yourself.
Well, before we let you go, dude, what's maybe a book or something that is changing your life or has changed your life?
What's a good book that changed? The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle is a good one. The Four Agreements. Those are two pretty powerful books that, I've read multiple times that have changed my life.
Why those two?
Well, the Power of Now for sure is staying in the present moment. It's we often get distracted about the future or the past.
Yeah.
Staying present and, now the tattoo I have on my arm is enjoy the journey. And to enjoy the journey, you have to be somewhat present.
Yeah.
So sometimes you got to reflect on like, wow, I'm actually doing some of the things that I set out to do when I was a kid, or, for example, friends with like Dominic Wilkins and watched him growing up playing ball and was inspired by his journey, and now, consider him a friend. So it's cool introspectively to like look at these things and so that's one of them. And then the Four Agreements just have great principles and philosophies of life. And then author-wise, Ryan Holiday.
Yeah.
I really like Ryan Holiday.
Yeah, he's awesome.
And Marcus Aurelius.
Yeah.
His philosophies of Stoicism. Yeah. Any of those books, I think, are really, really good principles to be a good, powerful man with good, core principles and respect in the world.
Sense of direction. Yeah.
100%.
Craig, where can people find you, man? On social media or just in general?
Maybe Instagram, Craig Levinson. Look up Zion. I'm usually with him doing something. So if you guys want to learn more about his journey, what we're doing in the world, there's a lot of things I didn't mention that are upcoming pretty soon. But Instagram, Craig Levinson. Always welcome to connect with people and give advice and just help out.
Craig, we appreciate you being on, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, this was another episode of The Confidence Quotient. Michael Carrillo, Zane Kaufman, and Craig Levinson. Give us a follow on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and we'll see you on the next one.